Hey, what's up, Bill? There we go. Looks like we're live.
How are you, Matt? It's good to see you.
Yeah, doing well, doing well. I know it looks like we're live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, all over the place. So should have people jumping in here. Again, as you jump in, feel free to introduce yourself, say where you're watching from. Really appreciate any likes and comments as you jump in. And obviously, Bill's been kind with his time to be able to come in and answer questions for everybody. So really excited to have you on. I know it's been a little while since we had you, and I think it was like December 2020 that you did the interview with us last time. I know I've tried to slowly upgrade my background since then, so we're a little more professional this time.
Yeah, for sure. We bought a new office since then. We bought an office building, closed on December 30th. So we're in it's a church that we do like live and virtual events from and stuff like that. So nice. So that's my new background myself. So
there we go. Yeah, looking good, man. So well, again, appreciate you coming on. We're doing a special live stream edition for this Lunch and Learn. I know, again, feel free to jump in the chat. We'll ask, I'll ask your questions throughout. So, as I go through this, I've got plenty of questions on my end, Bill. Excited to catch up and chat with you on my end, but appreciate you kind of sharing your knowledge with our community. To kind of give people a little bit of background going into, I know, Bill, just a little bit about your bio. I know you were a Navy pilot, a real estate professional, obviously. You've been wholesaling and flipping in Tennessee. And you guys, is it over 200 deals a year at this point that you guys do? Or what's the volume?
We're probably down to like 80 deals a year now, 80, 90 deals a year. I will say that just like everybody else, I think that the inventory has really been a challenge to find. And so what we've focused on is doing like less volume, but higher quality deals. Like how do we maximize the dollar that we get out of every single property? So we were up to, like, my first year was 67, then we did 135, then we did 187, then over 200 for a few years in a row. And then we started to kind of make an adjustment inside of our business to kind of like reduce the size and overhead of the company and have more of a kind of a lifestyle business. And since then, I brought on a partner as well that runs the day-to-day operations. So I'm more of a consultant in that company now. But I love that I'm still tied in. I can have the pulse. I know exactly what's going on. We talk on a regular basis of the market, what we're seeing. I give them a bunch of, I lend them a bunch of money to close deals and wholesale stuff right now. So probably about 80 deals. We're doing, 6 or 7 a month on a regular basis.
Yeah, fantastic.
And sometimes 10 or 12. It ebbs and flows.
Depends. That's fair. Yeah, I know. I mean, you're, regardless, you're a true practitioner from that perspective. So you really, have built up your team. You've built up systems in place to be able to even do that, where you can step away and still have things run. So there's definitely a lot there that you can speak on when it comes to real estate specifically. And then outside of that, I know you've got everything on the seven-figure flipping side between your Flip Hacking Live events, the mastermind, mentoring programs. And you're truly one of those leading voices in real estate. Like, I know you just had on David on your podcast. I think that went live yesterday too. So, I think, yeah. So I think anything on the education side can speak to as well. But appreciate you jumping on and sharing that knowledge with us and our community too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a fun few years. So especially with the education side, understanding what everybody else is doing in the marketplace inside of our mastermind group, seeing their businesses, if they're struggling or doing really well, and you can kind of get the pulse of what's happening in the market that way too. And so I would encourage everybody to kind of just network with other people and find out what's going on in other marketplaces, not just yours, and how they're feeling, what they're doing, some of the tactics and strategies that they're using to try to implement in yours. That's really what kind of blew up my business.
Yep. Yeah. And I know we're going to be talking about that a little bit here in, I think it's July 13th at 1:00. We have a webinar. It's you and I. Kiavi's going to be on there, formerly Lending Home. I know Vaughn Bethel is going to join us, so it's going to be a party. It'll be a good time. But I'll throw up the registration link right here. That's something that I know we, if you're wanting to learn more about how to find that first deal, first couple deals, how to fund it, how to think through systems like this, how to really take real estate serious for the second half of this year, go to that link. It's going to be a awesome time, a deep dive that you guys are hosting us, Bill. So I'll leave that up here for people to jump in and find out more about that. But excited to do that here coming up with you too.
Yeah, I am too. I think what I want to talk about on this specifically is like putting together a masterclass like this is really, we spend a lot of time kind of talking about this, understanding what it could be. And like what I wanted to do is just kind of like remove the curtain from the difficulty and challenge that people, if they're just getting started or they're trying to use a new software system or using hard money or scaling their business for the first time. So I really do think that I'm very much a systems and operations person that has been able to scale and grow a company and scale myself out. And then how do you do that using software systems and leverage like institutional lenders and hard money? And a lot of times when I got started in real estate, all like even pulling a list was really scary for me. Like I didn't understand how to do it. So I just didn't do it for a while. And I wanted to learn more and more and more and more. So my goal for this in putting this together is how do we remove the uncertainty curtain from folks, whether they've never used DealMachine before or whether they've never done a deal before. Like either one, how do they do it? How do they set it up? What does it look like? How does somebody else use a system? And then how can we scale something like that? And then same thing with Kiabi, which like you said, most people probably know them as Lending Home. How do we remove the uncertainty from that? How do we get financing? How do we put in an application? When should we do that? What do the terms look like? What's the percentages? Am I paying an exorbitant amount of money for this money? Or does it make sense to help scale my business? Can I get 100% financing, 90, 80? Will they finance a new person? All of this stuff, just like remove the uncertainty from it and make it really easy. So I'd encourage all of you guys to attend. I think it's going to be a really great event that we put a lot of time into. And there's 3 pretty big players in the industry that are coming together to do this. So, and it's not just, hey, let's answer a bunch of questions. It really is going to be a strategic presentation for you guys in a masterclass of how to use all these systems and softwares.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just to answer a question, I mean, that's what we're on here on today as well. So feel free, like jump in the chat, ask specific questions. I wanted to give you guys Bill's background there so you know where he's coming from on all of this. But excited to put that together for everybody. And that's going to be, like you said, a very strategic, thought through process that everyone can follow. And whether it be you've done, a few deals and you want to take your business to the next level, or like you said, Bill, you're thinking about, the market and should I get in and what should I be doing? How can I get started? Like that'll all be answered there. So, excited to do that and you're coming up. But one thing I was going to mention, and let's see, Stephanie, hi, Cassandra, hi, thanks for jumping in the chat there. One thing I was gonna ask you a little bit about is I know you guys, I mean, again, you put out a ton of great content on your end too. I know you guys have recently done one on what real estate investors need to know right now to really protect themselves and prepare for any kind of downturn, any kind of recession. So could you maybe start a little bit there in terms of how you guys are treating the market, how you're thinking through all of this, how newbies should think about this?
Yeah, absolutely. This is actually perfect timing. I just got off a call with all of our mastermind groups. We're on a call right 2 minutes ago, and we set it up 3 days ago. I could tell there was some uncertainty that was sitting in there. It's like some heaviness, and there's everybody in the industry probably feels this way of like, what's happening? Interest rates are rising, inflation's high. What's going to happen to our flip deals? What is my wholesaling business going to look like? Should I buy more rental properties? Should I still continue to buy short-term rentals? These are all the questions that are being asked. Is now a good time to sell my house? Is now a good time to buy a house? What does all that look like? So this is probably like an hour in and of itself conversation. However, the thing that I'll tell everybody that watches this, definitely in this moment, is don't freak out. Like just take a deep breath, calm down, and say, okay, how can my business survive in this? How can I thrive and win and make more money in an environment like this? It doesn't matter if the market's going up or down or stagnant. There's somebody making money in any market. That goes in retail businesses, in online businesses, marketing companies, sales companies, real estate companies. Stock market drops, somebody's making money that day. Like the person that's selling and there's somebody else buying it. Like it's the same with Bitcoin right now. That stuff's crashing, right? It's going down. Somebody's making money there. I'm telling you right now, somebody's making money in that. And so for us, I think as real estate professionals, we've got to figure out how to do that. And my advice to everybody out there is going to be to remain flexible, not get stuck in this is what I've always done and this is how I do it. I think like learning new strategies and skills and starting to think about what's happening in the marketplace. So right now, let's just use an example right now. Our pay-per-click, we ran the numbers, the most Googled item, like the best keyword for us right now is, should I sell my house now? So it used to be sell my house fast, sell my house for cash, Sale my house. That was one of our biggest keywords, SALE, my house, like misspelled sell. But now it's, should I sell my house now? And that's the sentiment that's going around the entire marketplace right now. Is now the best time to sell? What should I do? People want to know what to do. And so what's happening is, as we go in, if we move into a recession, like a bigger recession, people start getting tighter with their money, they're going to start coming to us. So the past few years, what I've seen is it's been hard to find deals. I mentioned that at the beginning. It's been competitive, and we've been competing with real estate agents, low inventory, seller's market, driving up the prices, all that stuff. As that starts coming back our way, what we see is we see distress tick up, and we're basically a pawn shop. Like, I look at my wholesaling business as a pawn shop. The people that walk in there, they know that they're selling for a discount. When you walk into a pawn shop, you don't expect to get retail pricing. So they're calling us and they're exploring their options. They're trying to figure out what's available to them right now. And so, and if the other thing that's happening is the market, like the news channels, media, everybody like that is feeding them garbage. It's feeding them garbage of the sky's falling. Oh, this is the end of, this is a nightmare. It's all clickbait stuff. But that's their reality, right? So as a pawn shop, you can lean into that reality. I guarantee if you're doing direct to seller marketing right now, your phone is ringing more. You have more appointments than you had 2 months ago, even last month. I guarantee it. And if not, you probably slowed down your marketing or you stopped your marketing thinking that this is not the time. So my advice right now is to continue marketing, continue looking for deals, and then to go deeper from that, the next step is, okay, so, well, what does that mean? Like, do I start adjusting my buy pricing? How do I still make money and margins in this uncertain time? So we can go really deep on that, but like the biggest, the message from this call that we had was just like, stay calm, things are going to be okay. It's time to be a true professional. It's time to understand your numbers. It's time to think about some different options, some different ways to run your business. If you were flipping, you might be doing more wholesaling. Maybe if you were, maybe you're doing more subject to investing. And I think that's a huge opportunity right now. Everybody's got loans at 3%. So there's lots of things that are happening. I would say be flexible to shift your business model as necessary. And your only goal is to make as much money as you can. And so you have to develop your skill set. And so if you don't have a skill set of creative financing, if you don't have a skill set of direct to seller marketing, if you don't have a skill set of flipping or wholesaling or these kind of things, like do some learning, but also learn through action. And that would be my advice is kind of like, look at how you can win in this environment right now. Think about the avatar and the seller that you're talking to and how they're feeling and thinking. What kind of garbage and information are they being fed? Why are they calling you? And just listen to them. Brush up on your sales skills, close that transaction, and figure out how to dispose of it to make money, whether it's flipping it, holding it, short-term renting it, or flipping it.
Absolutely. There we go. Josh jumping in saying learning through action. That I was going to bring that up as well. That echoes what we talk about all the time as well. And having a network and having, people that you can go to have a timely resource for when you do deal with certain situations and you deal with very specific things is absolutely key as well. Like having that network to back up on and whenever you deal with something that you could not have foreseen otherwise, to be able to go to and lean on for support is absolutely key. But I think in the end, like you said, you're going to learn through action, learn through doing, you're not going to know everything. Like you said, even creative finance, that's a gigantic thing that you can if you just look up creative finance real estate, you'll see millions of it or tens of thousands of videos on YouTube pop up. Like you'll be able to continue to look up information as long as you possibly could want, but you're not going to be able to really apply that information until you take action and default to action like that and have some kind of support system when you do want to dig deeper on a particular subject. So a lot of what you're talking about echoes true for us. I know you've been doing this for a little while. Through the last, through 2007, 8, 9, 10, were you an active investor then as well? And how did you kind of approach that? What did you learn from that experience?
Yeah, I wasn't. So I kind of I bought a condo in San Diego in 2006. That was the first property I ever bought. Before that, I was renting. So I was a military pilot. I moved around from city to city and I rented for a long time. Started learning about real estate, and I got an 80-20 loan in 2006 for a condo in Pacific Beach. It was, I bought it for $385,000, right around there, I think. And it was 700 square feet. I got an 80% first position mortgage, 20% second, just by signing my name. I definitely couldn't afford that place as a brand new pilot. And then I ended up selling that condo. So the market crashed. I moved to Pensacola, Florida, and I was renting it out. I was losing $750 a month in that condo by renting it out versus my mortgage. So from there, I sold it for $200,000. So I lost $185,000 on it. Fortunately, the government had a program called HAP, Housing Assistance Program, that the Army put together. It bailed me out, basically broke me even, and I learned a very valuable lesson during that time. One was you need to have cash reserves in a time like that. Like I needed to have the reserves to be able to hold on to that house and not foreclose on it. And so I was digging into my reserves by losing $750 a month renting it out. And the other one is to understand the marketplace and market. What happened was banks wouldn't lend, and the HOA had a problem in that property. So it was only cash transactions that were available. And I was stubborn and I didn't put it up on the market earlier. I probably could have sold it for $100,000 more had I put it up on the market or actually paid attention to what was going on. I basically buried my head in the sand and was like, oh, this isn't happening. Like everybody else, frankly, like this isn't happening. Everything's going to bounce back. This is not reality. Right. And I think that's why a lot of people lost a lot of money at that time. They weren't willing to drop the price. They just thought, it would go back up. It's not like the market was crashing 10% a month. It was like 1% a month, or in some areas 2.5% a month max. But
it wasn't overnight,
right? It was 10, 12% a year. And so, but nobody was willing to drop their prices and accept the fact that we are going into this thing. So, and I think it's recent enough now for a lot of people that there's more of a reality. I think that's why people are like freaking out more than they should right now, frankly, because they remember that and they're like, oh my gosh, it could be that bad. And maybe it could, but we're talking about some inflation, interest rate rising, price increase, and we still have low inventory of houses. So there were 80 to 100 like REOs everywhere, foreclosures everywhere, and you can't compete with that when you're a house flipper. So I would just say watch the market, watch the numbers. So I've studied it a lot. I used the data, but I wasn't actively investing at that time other than seeing what was happening. And like, truly, I was part of that. I was buried my head in the sand and said, this isn't happening. But a lot of people in our mastermind were investing. So I asked them questions. I try to understand what happened. I listen to them when they talk, for sure. And I'm still a student of the game, which is really cool.
Yeah. You've touched on it a little bit here, but talking about, hey, you hear a lot of noise from other people of, like you said, they might be freaking out a little more than they should currently. How do you sort through that? Like, how do you find the news versus the noise like that? Especially if you're a newbie trying to figure out when is, the right time to jump into real estate like this?
Yeah. So I'm an engineer. So data, I go to the data, I go to the numbers, I go to the charts. Yeah. So I saw a headline a couple months ago. It was like, foreclosures have reached an all-time high since 2020 or something. And it was like, there was like 50,000 foreclosures around the country or something. It was like a joke. There was 500,000. And there's even like 10 times that right before the coronavirus. I mean, it makes sense. You couldn't even foreclose on a house since April 2020 or March 2020. Like I have a house that I was foreclosing on. I couldn't even do it for a year and a half. Because all the courts were closed. There was a moratorium on foreclosures, everything. So of course they're higher right now. Like the media is just making clickbait. So what I would say is then I went to the foreclosure chart and I started looking at the data, like how many Fannie and Freddie loans are in foreclosure now and how many were in foreclosure in January of 2020. Like 10 times, there's 10 times less now than there were then. So we're not even back to pre-coronavirus levels. So I would look at the data. The interesting thing is being an engineer and loving data and numbers. It's like you can take one number and create your own story with it. But when you look at the whole picture, like the whole chart, the whole map, you can start to really understand what's happening. And I saw the same thing when they were saying that in February, they said that the number of pending houses is way down, but the inventory was also down. So if I have less things to sell, of course the pendings are going to go down. Like even if we had 100% absorption rate, if the active listings were dropped in half, pending is going to go down.
Right.
So it's just a headline to get people to click. But the cool thing as an investor, go to the source data when you're trying to figure out the narrative for yourself. Now, when a seller's calling you and saying, "Oh my gosh, I don't want to go into foreclosure," or "I need to sell this house quickly because the market's dropping like crazy," you just listen. Oh, okay. Oh, what makes you feel that way? Well, I watched a news article. I read this news article. I saw this headline. They're not even reading the articles. They're just looking at the headlines. And it's creating their belief pattern and their belief system. And I'm not saying to use it negatively, but let them sell you their house. Like, that's figure out a win-win situation and figure out what you can do with it. So as far as a new person goes right now, I've been hearing it for the last 3 years. So I run a mastermind group. We have podcasts and events and things like that. And people are like, now's not the right time to get in the market. It's too competitive. It's way too competitive. There's not enough deals out there. There's not enough inventory. I can't make any money. It's going to cost me a lot of money to get in. And so now when the market starts to soften, if it does, and it starts to go down and we start seeing more seller distress, I'm going to hear the same thing. Now's not the time to get in the market because it's cooling off. So what I would push for everybody listening is now is the time to get involved. If you're new, today is the day. If you're experienced, today is the day. It's just, today is always the day to get started in everything. Any diet you want to do, any business you want to start, any event you want to, today's the day. It's right now. It's not tomorrow, it's right now. And there's money to be made here. And I think it's going to be easier to get deals, easier to get contracts. Our phones are ringing more. We're setting more appointments. So if you've been saying for the last 3 years, now's not the time to get into real estate because it's too competitive and you're new and you want to get involved, then you're going to say, well, now's not the time either because the real estate market is cooling off and interest rates are rising and inflation's crazy and nobody wants to be in real estate. When will the right time be? So I think you need to work on yourself a little bit, but now is the right time. And next week I'll tell you is the right time, and 6 months from now is the right time, and 2 years from now is the right time. So, and frankly, 6 years ago, 2 years ago, 6 months ago was the right time. Now's the day.
Yep. Yeah. You can always find a convenient reason not to do something. So I'm definitely with you on that. I know. And especially I know you talk about hey, there are indicators. Things are slowing down. I mean, we do see markets like a San Diego or a Phoenix, ones that were really, really going crazy high. Have cooled off a little bit in terms of days on market and median price and things like that. And even with that, with any kind of shift, that's just a huge opportunity. I mean, from that standpoint, really with any downturn or any recession or anything, I mean, hey, that's, there's gonna be more wealth created then during those years than the last decade, so it's, I think no matter what the timing is, we talk about how to buy smart, how to go in and solve a problem and trade speed and convenience for a discount. And I know that's something we're going to dive deep into on our webinar together, which I included at DealMachine.com/register as the link to go there. I know that's on July 13th, so coming up real soon here together too. But I saw you had one other recent video talking about just house flipping mistakes, things that you've learned over the years. I think that would be really, really applicable to our audience there too. So do you mind sharing maybe a few of those things and stories of, hey, lessons that you've learned, especially when you were first getting into it, that you think, if today is the day that you're jumping in, things that you have figured out and can steer people away from?
Yeah. So if you're going to get started flipping houses, I think the number one thing that we do is what I've seen people do, and the reason why a lot of people got in trouble in 2008 is they were completely speculating. So I see a lot of people try to forecast their after repair value or ARV up based on what the market is doing. So basically, let's say I could sell the house today for $250,000, and but I'm projecting that it's going to be $280 in the next 3 months because it's been going up consistently. So I see that happen a lot of times is people aren't dialing their numbers properly and building in some sort of contingency for timeline problems, things like that, holding costs, stuff like that. So that's one thing I think is there's a lot of speculation that goes on in house flipping instead of really understanding the numbers and buying right and then running a tight operation. The second one I see people do all the time is massively over renovate a property, especially new people. And I did it, so I'm not casting blame or pointing the finger at you, but you don't have to get it to the beautiful Southern California HGTV house. Like, look at what all the other houses look like in that area that you're comping out for your ARV, and make it look like that. What we used to do is we'd put in like 1 or 2 features that were a little bit nicer. So what I want my price to be about the same as the other houses that are listed in the neighborhood, and I want my house to be a little nicer. And the reason for that is when you go out and look at houses, you look at 3 or 4 houses in the neighborhood. Like, you're not going to look at one house. You go out and your realtor takes you in a circle in your little farm area, the area you want to go to, and you go look at like 4 or 5 houses. And at the end of those appointments, you sit down and you go, which one did I like the best? And that's what you pick. That's how it works. It might not have worked that way in the last like year or since like, I don't know, June 2020 or July 2020. But that's how it really works, is you look at 5 different houses and then you pick your favorite, make an offer. So I wanted my house to be a little bit nicer and even sometimes a little bit cheaper than the other houses or the same price. What happens is it doesn't have to be way nicer. You don't have to put an extra $10,000 in there. Just make it what the other houses look like, but a little nicer. And so over renovation was huge. I did it. I overspent. I probably cost me $20,000, $30,000 on my first couple of houses just because I spent way more money and I wanted it to be really nice, spent a lot of time on it, beautiful tiles, beautiful like quartz countertops. You're not living there. And I would set it up such that I was living there. So those are the 2 really big ones. I think the other one is using your own money. I find a lot of people think that they need to use their own money. So they're like waiting to save up down payments and money and they think they need good credit and they need to go to a bank to get a loan and all this stuff. And I think understanding how money works, that's one of the biggest gaps in our industry. And I see the biggest questions is I don't have any money. I have crappy credit. I can't get a bank loan. I don't have a job, all these things. Like, I know people that have horrible credit, don't have a job, full-time investors, would never get a loan, and they're doing hundreds of houses a year. So I think some of that is kind of understanding the fact that you don't need that. Don't let it stop you from getting going. There's also a few other things that are gotchas, like power lines, busy roads, railroad tracks, those kind of things that newer investors don't know that it really messes with their ARV. And you could be on just one street over on the other side of a main road that puts you in a different school district or in another area that will drastically decrease your after repair value of the home, that you just don't know when you're new. It's just not something that you even think about. I lost $70,000 on a house in Pensacola just because it had a train track like in front of the house. And the train doesn't even run more than like once or twice a week. So I was like, it's not going to be a big deal. Like, the train is almost out of service. It doesn't even really run. It's such a beautiful house. And nobody wanted to buy it. And it was always the train track. And so it was a lesson learned the hard way. So hopefully people don't learn it the hard way. So those are a couple things that I would say are really big gotchas on renovation. Also knowing your numbers. Like I mentioned that, but briefly, but things like utilities, insurance, taxes, grass cutting, maybe it's snow removal in the winter. These kind of things you just don't, like, new investors are just like, I buy it for this, I sell it for this, and this is my profit, this is my rehab cost. There it is. They're not thinking about realtor fees and title, closing costs, and all these different things that go into some of the numbers. So running your numbers properly and building in a contingency for kind of holding costs and things that you kind of overlook when you watch the TV shows on HGTV. They say, bought it for this, put this much into it, sold it for this, here's my profit. Well, no, it's probably like half of that. So hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, that's outstanding. Yeah, I know we had a few people jumping in the chat saying this is great information. So again, feel free in the chat to ask questions. I've got plenty on my end. Bill, I know your wealth of knowledge here, so feel free to ask questions, and appreciate your time. Answering that for our community as well here too. But
yeah, Matt, one thing before we go into the next question, I want to touch on. You mentioned like San Diego and some of these other markets kind of cooling off and stuff. And I just want to point out to people that are listening is like, when you get your information from people, make sure you understand the context as well as the information. So And what I mean by that is real estate is hyper local. So it's not even just San Diego. So like, we talk about San Diego in general broad terms, but we have multiple people in the San Diego market who are like, they're killing it, right? Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is there's certain price points that's true, and there's certain price points that's not true. So like, let's say I put a house in San Diego up for sale at $450,000, right? The demand is going to be so insanely high for that house right now today. I'll probably still get 50 offers. It'll be on a contract in one day, like $150,000, $200,000 over asking price. So when you think about that, like when you look at these areas, you also need to look at the price point of home and where you are in that market too.
Context.
So one example is we had a house in Tampa. We just used this example last night at an event. We had a house in Tampa that was we had it under contract for $82,000. So in Tampa, the median home price like $400,000. So we had it under contract for $82,000, and I wish I had a picture of it. It's just a junky, crappy house, like small, tiny house, not like a true tiny house, but it's a small house. Needs a lot of work. And we put it out to our wholesale list, and we got offers around $90,000 from probably landlords that were because they had to buy it, they had to put a bunch of work into it, and nobody's really looking to flip it, right? Mm-hmm. And it's just not looking at that price point. Is we put it out as a rental, and we got $90,000 of an offer. We have money, and we have the ability to close on all the properties we put under contract. So we bought it. We ended up buying it. We didn't take $8,000 spread. We bought it, and we put it up on the market. Listed it for I think we listed it for $129,000. And we sold it for like $135,500. So, because there's nothing on the market. And like in a day, it sold cash. It was cash offer. We had like 5 cash offers or 6 cash offers in a day. It was like a couple weeks ago. There's nothing in that price point in that area at all. And it was just like we got crushed with activity, and we sold it really quick, and we made a significantly larger amount of money than if we wholesaled it, right? So this is about us finding a property, putting it under contract, and then we also had and selling it as quickly as we could for as much money as we could. And we just happen to have the resources where I can give the money to the company and loan the money to the company, and we can buy these houses. So then we had a house that was like $500,000, $550,000, and it was really slow, because at that price point, what's happening right now, just to be clear, is when the interest rates go up, you qualify for less money. So if the interest rate goes up 1 percentage point, it goes from 4 to 5%. You qualify for 11% less on a mortgage. So an example of that is, let's say somebody qualified for that $550,000 house last month, and this month the interest rates are up 1%, as an example. Then they go down about $60,000. So now they can only qualify for a $490,000 house. Well, go up 1 more percent. Now you're down another $50,000. So now you're at 440. One more time, you're down under 400. And you're that person with like, what's the saying? Like country club appetite, but you don't have that kind of budget. So you're used to looking at $550,000 houses, and now you go to a $400,000 house, and you're like, this is what I get. This is it. Maybe we don't want to buy a house right now here. And so that's kind of some of the things that are happening, and that's what I see. So to your point of markets changing and adjusting, just keep in mind, it's not just the market, it's also the micro areas of that market. And so then you can start thinking about where to focus. And I'd highly recommend new flippers focus in the median home price, like plus or minus. Stay around that area. If you can be below that and flip there, there's always active buyers there.
Yeah. That's really, really good context. And just another reminder of why you need to pay attention to your local markets, know your numbers like that. And yeah, absolutely. It's, local and then even hyper local is what really is going to, make or break you there. But Josh jumped in and said, wine taste on a beer budget. Yeah. There you go.
That's actually exactly what I was looking for. Yes. That saying was in my head somewhere, but thanks, Josh.
Awesome. Well, yeah. Again, reminder, feel free to jump in the Q&A, also the register link right there. I know we're going to talk a lot about on that particular webinar around how to buy right, how to buy smart. And then on the other side of it, funding as well. So how to think about funding. I know you have recently talked about how to use stories to really land funding and grow your business. Can you maybe talk a little bit more about that on, strategies for fundraising and even just the importance of creative finance, moving forward?
Yeah, I would say the thing that I attribute the majority of my success to is having the ability to raise money and be able to talk about money and understand money and how to use my money and other people's money to my advantage. So, and the reason that is because it gave me options. So in my real estate business, when I put a house under contract, being able to close on it gives me lots of options. Just like the example I just told with the $82,000 house, instead of making $8,000, we ended up making, I don't know, probably $45,000 on that house. So maybe 40. It's a huge difference, right? Imagine how far that goes in your business when you can put $32,000 more dollars in your bank and put it towards marketing or operations or owner distributions and make yourself feel a little bit better, like you're paying yourself, right? And so, the challenge in that is to figure out how to do that. And it's actually pretty simple. It is really, really easy. But at first, this was the biggest worry that I had. And I find most investors, this is the thing that stops them from getting going, is they're like, I just don't have money. I don't have money. Nobody would lend to me. I don't want to ask people for a loan, all of this stuff. It's a total mindset problem that we have around money. It probably goes back to when we were younger, what we think about money. It might be bad. It might be the root of all evil. Like, how do you think about money in your life? And for me, I remember growing up, we didn't have a lot of it. And like really not a lot of it. But my parents never made it feel like we didn't have any money. My mom would go to like the thrift shops and try to buy me the more designer clothes and stuff like that. I have plenty of embarrassing stories about that where she picked like the wrong color or the female version or something, but we didn't have it. And so I always looked at it like I have to hoard it a little bit. Like I had a lot of trouble like giving it away and spending money and investing in myself and all of these things because when I was younger, it was very much like, no, we can't. We can't afford it. We can't do those things. We go on one vacation like every couple years. I remember going to Disney World one time and it was like just so amazing, but it wasn't like a regular occurrence, right? And so I always felt like I had to hoard this money. And so it took me a really long time to invest in myself, to actually spend money, to even buy a book. And so what now I see people do is they take that from their youth and their belief of money and they bring it into their business and it stunts their growth. So I'll tell you, there's a lot of people, what we have to understand is you're providing an opportunity to somebody. So if you can provide an opportunity, there's a lot of people that need an opportunity, especially right now. Stock market's down, Bitcoin's going crazy, like it's getting crushed, right? And all this stuff's happening right now. And people are looking for something. They're looking for opportunities. And there's a lot of money in the marketplace right now. And they want something stable, they want something fixed, and they want something asset backed usually. And we have all that. Like real estate is the best tool, period. Like it's the best way, and the best way to financial freedom is through real estate. Like I totally believe that, and I'm sure everybody watching this does too. So if you can use your relationships and the people that are in your life to provide an opportunity for, and they're going to come back. I'll tell you what, I'll use an example. We just sold an apartment building. We owned it for under 2 years. Our investors made a 94% return on their money in under 2 years. So if you put $100,000 in there, I just sent you back $194,000 in less than 2 years. And I mean, I'm getting messages like we submitted a wire, like all the money back to our investors, over $1.6 million just yesterday or 2 days ago. And I'm getting messages like, is this right? Like, oh my gosh, like how did this even happen? And now we have another opportunity now that I'm raising money for. And they're like, can you just take all of this and take it back? Like, I don't want this back. Like, don't send this to me. Put it back in the next investment. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're compounding it. They're just gonna put it back in, and they don't want it back. Anytime I call my lenders, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna have to pay off this loan. They're like, wait, what? No, like I count on this money. I need this investment. These are people getting 6 and 7% interest, you know? And so when you provide an opportunity, you become valuable to them in their life because they don't know how to do the thing that you're doing. They don't know how to find off-market properties. And frankly, they probably don't want to. They don't want to go into crappy houses. They don't want to fix them up. They don't want to deal with contractors. They don't want to do all the stuff that we do. But if you can provide an opportunity to them and they invest in you, you become the go-to person for the next amount of money that they get and after that. So what I would say is there's one thing that you're probably not doing. Almost everybody is not doing this. And you're not talking about what you're doing. You want to become successful in the real estate business before you're going to tell anyone that you're doing the thing. And it's just human nature. Like you don't want to, and really the only thing stopping you from doing that is what you think other people think about you. That's it. You just don't want other people to think that you're an idiot or you can't do it or these kind of like, I know it took a long time before I was like, hey, I'm a house flipper, because I didn't identify as a house flipper. You need to become the person, identify as that person before you do the thing. And if you do that and you start talking about it, people want to get involved. They start asking you questions. Hey, can we jump on a call? Tell me about that. Like, oh, you're going to this real estate event? What is that all about? Oh, cool. Like so many people that I flew with in the Navy are investors of mine. And a commanding officer of mine. So a CO is like the top of the whole squadron. My CO, an old CO of mine, is one of my biggest investors. And he calls me up all the time. Look, he's like, hey, what do you got? What do you got? What do you got? And awesome. He loves it. He's making a return. He's doing his own thing. And he passively makes money with us, right? So if you can provide an opportunity for people, it's massive. And so you mentioned storytelling. You have to be able to tell a compelling story about this to draw people in. So if you can tell a story and you can bring them along for the adventure, they're going to be interested and intrigued in what you're doing. And if they're interested and intrigued in what you're doing, they're going to want to learn more. All marketing is triggering an emotional response in somebody to hopefully get them to ask more. Tell me more about that. That's it. Your marketing piece that you send out is, this is what we do. You just want them to have some emotional response to it and call you or click a link or do a thing, right? Look, we have a link like right there. There's a link right there, right there. DealMachine.com/register. So our goal today, is to say, hey, this is interesting. Like Bill is actually an interesting guy. He might actually know something. So maybe I should go to that link. I should put my information in, trade my email and my name for the masterclass that they're going to do to see if there's any valuable information there, right? That is all you're doing with the story that you tell to raise money. It's like, hey, let me take you around this house, or I'm going to look at a house today. I can't wait to flip my first house. And just create your own little reality TV show on whatever channel it is that you have. Maybe it's email list, maybe it's a blog, maybe it's a YouTube channel, maybe it's a podcast, maybe it's your Facebook page, your Instagram page, your TikTok, whatever. Like there's millions of ways to do this today, right? And you don't even, I could talk about this all day. Like I love this stuff, but raising money and having access to money is so important. And to do that, like, just talk about what you do. Talk about what you're interested in. I read a book. I watched this thing. I'm learning this. Like, bring people along on the adventure. People are so plugged in now. They want to watch other people's lives more than their own. And it's crazy, but you can lean into it. And you raise money that way. You bring people into your world. You'll find partners. You'll find other investors. You'll find so much in there. But you have to be able to, like, reveal your secret identity. That's Susan Lasser-Lyons wrote a book called Getting the Money. It's an amazing book. And she talks about revealing your secret identity. Like you have to be able to talk about what you're doing if you ever want people to know that there's an opportunity. Your mom and dad might be pretty ticked off at you if they knew that you could have given them 94% return on their money in less than 2 years and you didn't tell them about it. You know what I'm saying? Like right now, there's people who are like, why didn't you call me about that deal? Like, oh, sorry. Like I pretty much, I shouted it from the rooftop as legally as I could with the SEC. And now I have another opportunity for you. So people get upset that they're not getting those kind of returns. Like you have a great opportunity for them. It's your duty to share it. And you can raise millions of dollars that way pretty easy.
Yeah. What was the name of the book? Getting the Money, you said?
Getting the Money, yeah. And can I share a link of something that I put together? I know, I don't, is it okay? So I put all this in like a challenge. We made this thing called the 500K challenge. You may have seen people using the hashtag. We've had like probably 1,000 investors go through it. We've had people raise like $6 million. And that's just by them like going live, doing some of the exercises I put together. It's probably the best thing, like arguably the best thing that I've ever done. I'm really, really proud of this challenge. Like that thing in the book that took me 2 years to write, like those two things, I was talking to my COO yesterday. I was like, these are the best things I've ever put together. And so I would go check that out if you want something.
What's the link to that?
It's 500kchallenge.com. Okay. So yeah, I would check it out. I think it'll be really powerful for you guys to go through it. And I don't know what my team is charging for that now or anything like that. I do know that if they go through our book funnel, I think it's really cheap. So I'll give you a secret. If you go through our book funnel, I think it's like even cheaper than we've ever tried. I think it's like $20 or $30 or something. So you get a free book and you can go through the challenge. I think we set it up that way. So
awesome.
That's my recommendation for your audience is to pay I think the book is $7.95 and the challenge is like $30. Right. I think the challenge is like $500 now or something like that. So inflation has even hit our 500K challenge. But you can get it for like $30 if you go through the book funnel, which is 7ffbook.com.
7ffbook.com. Okay, cool. We'll throw that.
That's a free book. I think you pay like $8 for shipping or something. $7, something like that.
Perfect. Just threw both those links in the chat for everybody as well. But
cool.
Yeah, really appreciate you walking us through all of that. And I know we've only a few minutes here, so wrapping up a little bit. I mean, we're going to be doing this again on the webinar you're talking about, that DealMachine.com/register. Really give people the specific action steps to take in terms of finding that deal, fundraising. And maybe can you talk a little bit about the support network that you guys have built with Flip Hacking Live, with your mentoring groups, just everything you've got going on over there too?
Yeah, before I do that, we've said the word webinar a couple times, and I want to I feel like that word ever since COVID has gotten like a negative connotation.
Yeah,
and I want to address it real quick because I think what happens a lot of times is people talk in a webinar, they talk at you, like they tell you what they think and they think you should think, right? On a lot of webinars that I've been on, like this is my position, this is where I stand, and that's kind of like a webinar. And what I want to do at this event is I want to bring you in and work with you and talk with you. And that's, I think, the change that we've been making inside of our company is how can we work with people? How can we talk with them and not at them and just present like to them and give a presentation? Like how can we bring them in, listen to what they need, and then bring them along this journey? And so when I named it specifically this ultimate masterclass. Like I really wanted to put time and effort into the name because I think for you guys, when you hear webinar, you get kind of turned off. It's like, oh, it's another webinar. Like they're not going to see my face. They're not going to do this thing. They're just going to talk the whole time. And it's going to be opinion and these kind of things. No, we want to take what the feeling that you have, the ideas that you have, and then walk alongside of you with you in this kind of masterclass and show you exactly how to do it. So if you're listening, like I hope that helps. Like really intentionally trying to figure out how to walk with you and work with you through that. And that's kind of like a pretty good segue into what we do. So we have 4 different mastermind groups, but really like our events. I look at my company like we are an event company. My job is to motivate, inspire, and also train the people that are coming through our groups. So we need motivation and inspiration, and then we need like deep immersion in what we do. So we have very specific like small group accountability sessions that we run inside the program, and then we also do events, like immersion events where you come, like this next event that we have in July, we are going to get to work, like 2 days of diving into tactics, strategy, what's going to work in a recession. Like we are focusing on that stuff for the people of like, it's time to get to work. It's not fluff. We're not doing a bunch of mindset. We're getting to work for those 2 days. And then Flip Hacking Live. So we do a lot of member events. So mastermind members come to these events. Flip Hacking Live is really our only event that's open to the public. And we do a big event every October. Last year it was in Orlando. It's going to be back in Orlando again this year.
Nice.
It's October 13th, 14th, and 15th. It's at an amazing hotel. It's 3 days. We usually have about 20 or 25 speakers. And this is not an event, again, where we're talking at you. Like this is an event where we're presenting, we're building a community, we're holding each other accountable, and we're providing like a massive opportunity to people if they're just getting started or if they're trying to grow and scale their business. So the sessions, like the presentations, no joke, are 30 to 40 minutes, and they give you everything. Like everything in their business, they hand to you. Vaughn's presentation about driving for dollars using the DealMachine app last year was one of the best presentations I've ever seen. He laid out how he finds his drivers, so how he uses the app, how he finds his drivers, how he pays his drivers, Exactly how he pays them, like exact number, exactly how it's structured, what worked, what didn't work before that. Like when he found a driver, why did he structure his pay that way? Like, do I pay by lead? Do I pay a salary? Do I pay by deal closed? Like went through all of that, showed his exact process of how, like once the lead comes in, how they verify the photo, what they do they text, do they email, do they skip trace, he went through all of it. At the end of 30 minutes, you could create a replica of exactly what he's doing in your marketplace. And that was just one of 20 or 25 presentations. And I make everybody, there's no holding back. Like nobody's allowed to hold back. They have to give everything or I don't let them on the stage. So there's no secrets there because look, we have like 1,000 people there. There's like 30,000 house flippers in the United States right now. And 1,000 of them show up. So we can give the secrets to the 1,000 people that come. So that's what that event's like.
Yeah, and he'll be joining us too for the Ultimate Masterclass as well. So that'll be great to have him on. And
he'll show you exactly how he's doing it. So I just interviewed somebody for my podcast, and the presentation that he gave, I asked somebody to come on who took Vaughn's presentation, implemented it in their business, and exactly what he learned and what they're doing. He got 2 deals, is making $70,000 on those 2 deals, and they just got started a couple months ago. And they just took Vaughn's presentation, implemented it in their business up in New York, and taken off with it.
Amazing. Yeah.
And you can do it too.
Love it. Awesome. Again, I know we only have a few minutes here, so any last minute questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. I know my last question on my end too, Bill, I know anytime we've gotten on, we've talked family often. My daughter's she turns 2 today. So my youngest, I have almost 6, almost 4, and a 2-year-old now, which is mind blowing. But I did see that you guys went to like a recent camp, like an entrepreneurship camp. Was it you and your son or?
Yeah.
Yeah. How was that? Like what all did you guys learn there? And any notes, dad to dad?
Yeah. So I'm in a marketing mastermind. Specifically for digital marketers. And one of the fulfillment events for that mastermind group was a young entrepreneur event. And so they recommended 12 years and up to come to the event. My son's 8. He just turned 8, like a week before the event. And I said, well, I'm going to take him and I'm hoping that he gets into marketing, whether he wants to do an e-commerce business, sell some things on eBay, who knows? And if he hates it, then we'll just hang out in the pool in Phoenix. It'll be beautiful and we'll have a good time and just spend some time together. And I figured he would absorb some of it. It was a great event. There's kids there that are making $1 million a year. Like there's 15-year-old kids, 13-year-old kids that are they have YouTube channels. They're selling stuff on eBay, e-commerce sites. They're becoming experts. They're writing books. It's really cool and motivating to see that. And it was really inspiring for the kind of the next generation and creating this kind of movement. So I loved it. The thing that I learned is I really do think that our kids are just stuck behind, we're pacifying them with screens, TVs, iPads, those kind of things. And I want my son to become a creator, not a consumer like me, and just continue to create things and figure out how to kind of pour into that, how to get him around the right people, the right families, the right other kids, and saying no and just being tough on him is going to be a huge benefit to him. There was a 20-year-old that got up and spoke. He made $1 million by the time he was 16 and has grown a pretty big movement for kids. And his dad was really tough on him and got him to read self-help books and educational books and things like that. And he's like, I look back and I'm so thankful that my dad he challenged me. He said there was a time where my dad ripped out all the video games from my house and threw them away and wouldn't let me play video games. And he's like, I hated my dad for like 2 months. But after that, I grew, I developed, and man, I am such a better person right now because of it. And just seeing that young man stand up there at 20 years old, say that, gave me tons of hope. Sometimes I feel like I'm too hard on my kids for certain things. And I'm not trying to like create the outcome for them. They have to have free will for sure. But I'm also not going to let him play on his iPad for 8 hours because it suits me and it's easy for me. And so sometimes we have to do the hard things as parents to shepherd our children in the direction that we think is best for them. We don't know where they're going to end up. but that was powerful for me. The other reason why I went there, to be perfectly honest, with my 8-year-old specifically, is I will be figuring out how to do a real estate and entrepreneurial event like that for children for our community. So like it's already in motion. I've been trying to figure it out, and I wanted to see it. I wanted to see how they did. And our age group is about 8 to 12, maybe 8 to 13 for most of our mastermind members and their kids. They have young kids. So I wanted to see how this was executed and how my 8-year-old, if he got really bored or if he was paying attention, and what he liked and what he didn't like, so that I could frame. And I basically go to lots of events and seminars and things like that to scout speakers and look at the whole, right? I basically like hack the whole environment. I want to see how the registration is. I want to see where their sponsors are. I want to see what the presentations are like. I want to see what the food is. I want to see the structure. And so I can just make my events better.
Yep, absolutely. Well, definitely keep us posted on that one. Like I said, my oldest is about 5.5 now. He has his first loose tooth, so he's not not quite that age yet, but he's they're fun, man. It's I enjoy it.
Well, I think when we get this event off the ground, he'll probably be a little over 6, and I think it's possible that we could have something for 6 and up. I don't know. Like, I'm trying to figure that out. And the other thing for parents like you that have 2-year-old and 4-year-olds, how do we figure out how you can come too? You and mom can come, and the whole family, and we have. I'll build out the event right on this call. But, how do we have childcare for that? So
love it. Well, we'll do it. I know it's 1 o'clock here, so we'll have to run. But Bill, always have a great time. I really, really appreciate it. If people want to connect with you directly, obviously we have the Ultimate Masterclass that we're running, the DealMachine.com/register. What are other ways that they can get in touch with you directly too?
Yeah, I would say go there. I mean, hang out with us there. We put a link in the comments for the book, 7ffbook.com. And I have a podcast called 7-Figure Flipping and a YouTube channel called 7-Figure Flipping. We're pretty much everything goes there.
There we go. Awesome. Well, appreciate the time again, man.
Thanks, Matt. I had fun. See ya.
Yeah. Thanks again. And Matt Camp with Deal Machine. To everyone watching, happy deal finding.